Good day. My name is Gayatri Selvaraja. We choose FNN as our organization for this project selection and risk plan assignment. Fraser and Neef Holdings Berhad, most known as FNN, is among the region's oldest and most established food and beverage company, with its brand enjoying the distinction of being a market leader and household name in many categories. The primary reason for choosing this organization is because the organization handles a lot of resellers' data in order for them to operate. For example, the reseller's SSN ID, identification card number, or even passport number. In addition, since it's pandemic time, we have no opportunity to walk in for the interview and hand out our questionnaires. But with current technologies, this makes our assessment much easier, as we could deal with them by online, sending emails and phone calls. Last but not the least, fortunately, one of the key people in the upper management of the organization is very known for one of our team member in the group. Thus, he is very much likely to cooperate and share with us everything that we need to know for this assignment in order to complete it. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Dineshwari Kanyappan here. So today I'm going to talk about problem identification. In another word, describing the risk assessment of an organization. So here I'm going to talk about main 5 high risk possibility. The first one is system log file. System log file is used to inspect system events and store an employee's actions, such as renaming a file and opening an application that occur inside the software system. And they also are watchtower, lookout, and have the power to produce the information that might provide organization with a warning to acknowledge the breach. The raw files are also called as audit records, audit trails, and event logs. So the second point is patching server, which is most important aspect of both the productivity and security of the entire system of an organization. So it is important to ensure all organizations software is functioning correctly and in a most effective way. Sometimes when the software is out of date, it won't work properly and might be slow or crash often. So organization need to update it for these problems and to be fixed. The longer the organization goes without updating these kind of issues, it at it enterprise setting, the more productivity losses result. So my third point, storing credentials. Storing credential is the most important, I guess, because it's about password. So password managers can help to keep an organization credential secure and prevent sensitive information from being leaked. So using the same password always or weak password can leave vulnerable to hackers. For example, we really need a really good password actually to secure all the personal data. So for example, um, they can gain our social media accounts, bank accounts, emails, and other sensitive documents as well. So if someone obtained the access this information, that organization could become the victim of identity theft. So there is a creating strong password is really helpful to the organization. Then the fourth point is CCTV monitoring. CCTV monitoring, meaning monitoring closed circuit television, video camera are most important part in any business in this world actually. So CCTV cameras can help the employee and also workplace to be safe, and all the employee will be safe, feel safe because they think that they won't get any bad things happen there, like robberies or harm or anything, because CCTV will record each and everything, and that will make them feel safe, and then the workplace also will be safe as well. So my fifth point is third party RMP acknowledgement. So RMP here meaning risk management program that aim towards third party vendors. The target is to make sure that they apply appropriate security measures to the company's firm actually. For an example, what access do they need for the organization resources, and what do they has so they successfully perform the audit. So each and every organizations need to understand and manage the risk exposure that third parties present. So I guess that's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anas, and I will be showing you the methods for risk score that we did it for our assignments. And here we go. So on how we do it. So we have 11 different category of questions, such as the risk management and security policy and whatnot. We have 11 different category that almost cover every aspect on the IT for an organization. Then we pick the specific questions from the 11 category. Then we will rate the probability and the impact. So on our formula, we'll use a probability rating from 1 to 5 times by the impact rating from 1 to 5. Then we'll come to our risk score. Right. So we're ranging risk um, into three category. One is low risk, which is a risk score lower than 4, or a medium risk is between to 5 to 15, and the high risk is 15, is over than 15. So this is our result. This is just some of them. Um, as you can see in our probability for visitor security is most unlikely that we'll see, but somehow like the impact is much more than that, even though like the probability is much lower, but maybe like if it happened the impact will be rating by 2. That is that's our formula for scoring risk score. So 1 times 2 becomes 2. So and that's for a low risk score. And then as you go to the second row, system logs files has about 15 risk score. So that is in the medium risk. And then while in the story credentials, it have about almost full. I think it was full mark. It was full score possible. So which sits at the high risk. So these are the risk score that we would want to advise on an organization wish to take care about and all that. We have a lot of more result in the report, but for the presentation reason, we'll just make it very short. Thank you very much.
Hi, I am Muhammad Hazrul Haikal, and I will present about the risk assessment and solutions for the company that we choose, which is FNN. The first risk assessment questions that I am going to discuss is about how often does a company conduct risk assessment for processes to be included in the plan. So the answer from FNN company is that their risk assessments are performed on an annual basis. The level of threat for this question is moderate risk. It is due to the fact that the system processes internal use data from the company. The assessment of risk refers to the assessment of potential or future events that, should it occur, will have a negative effects on the business objective of an organization. In this context, that refers to the F&N company. A risk assessment also should be done if there is any significant changes in workplace processes or design, the introduction of new machinery, substance, or procedures, and lastly, if whenever there is an injury or incident as a result of hazard exposure. The current period of risk assessment carried out by the F&N company is sufficient enough. However, as a company, F&N is a company that involved in food and beverage business, there will always be a new machinery that will be introduced to make the production process of their goods easier. This creates new room for vulnerabilities, and a risk assessment should be done right away and not wait until the end of the year to do it, as the new machinery introduced might be exploited and harm their business. The new machinery that were introduced also can give harm to their workers if they don't have the proper risk assessment for the new machineries. After that, the next risk assessment question is: does your organization perform penetration testing of all internet facing applications? If high risk issues are identified, are they corrected within 90 days? And the answer from F&N company is that no, we do not perform any penetration testing. The level of threat for this question is also moderate risk because the system used by F&N company is a system that provides a normal or maybe an important service towards the company. First of all, penetration testing refers to the practice of testing a computer system network or web application to look for any security vulnerabilities that an attacker could exploit. Penetration testing helps a company to fix their vulnerabilities and prevent any attacks beforehand. This practice of penetration testing can save a company a lot of money that might be spent on the recovery process after being attacked due to the vulnerabilities not being corrected because they don't have any penetration testing. This practice can also save the F&N company a lot of money that might be spending on the recovery process in case an attack accident occur. F&N company should start with conducting research, identifying vulnerabilities in their systems that will be exploited, and report the findings in order for them to have list of what they should do penetration testing on. The next questions will be: does your organization have a formal system development lifecycle policy that includes application development and testing? The answer from F&N company is that yes, our organization has an informal policy for system development life cycles. The level of threat for this question is low risk because the system provides a non-critical service towards the company. First of all, system development lifecycle policy refers to requirements for developing and implementing new software and systems in order to ensure that all development work is compliant to the regulatory or any guidelines stated by the company. The policy should be formal in order for it to be implemented and in order for other employees able to stick to the policy. An informal policy can be described as a policy that consists of blurred lines between what is true and what is right. The presence of a formal SDLC policy enable development process to be aligned with the regulatory or guideline. As a result, no vulnerabilities will be created during the development process, and if something go wrong with the development process, they can always refer back to the guidelines again instead of an informal policy where if there is something go wrong, they will have no idea where to refer it from. Furthermore, the next risk assessment questions will be: are passwords required to be encrypted and or stored in a location or format that does not compromise the security of the data they protect? And the answer from F&N company is that no, they do not required for passwords to be encrypted and stored in a location that does not compromise the security of the data they protect. The level of threat for this question is high risk. This is because the system process and store confidential or restricted data, which is the password of the employees, and it is a confidential data for the company. Password is sensitive data for every person in order to prevent an unauthorized person to have access on their personal information or their files. The practice of encrypting password and store it in a secure space is important for a company to prevent any unauthorized access to their company data if the attacker have access to their employee password. In workplace, the employer need to stress their employees the importance of keeping a password private in order to prevent any attacks that will cost their company a lot of money. However, the effort of preventing attack just from encrypting password is not enough because attacker can easily find their ways to decrypt the hash password. Due to that, the company also need to store the encrypt password in a secured place where only certain authorized personnel can have access towards it. SolarWinds Pass Portal is one of the good tools for storing company passwords that offers best practice password management with credentials and knowledge stored in an encrypted password vault, controlled by role-based permissions and also multi-factor authentication. Lastly, the risk assessment questions that were answered by FNN company is, are backups regularly tested? And the answer is that backups are only tested when something needs to be recovered. The level of threat for these questions is moderate risk. This is because backup data is a system process and store internal use data by the company. The function of backup data is crucial for a company such as FNN in order for them to recover their important data after being attacked. The presence of a backup data also can help their company to save a lot of money to recover from the attack because they did not have to start over from scratch. It is a good practice to have a backup data for your company. However, the presence of backup data that were not comprehensively checked can be considered as useless. Testing a backup only when the FNN company needed it, they were exposed to the risk of losing data, application system, and workload that were stored as backup with the potential of no way to recover them. Therefore, FNN company should have a comprehensive checkup to make sure their backup data perform as expected in a disaster scenario. The procedure where FNN company can apply to start with backup checking firstly is to identify which backups need testing in order to save time from testing every single backup that exists. After that, the company should determine the specifics of their backup testing, such as testing to boot up, testing system functionally, or maybe testing recovery. Lastly, they should determine the frequency of backups tests based on the previous process because the previous process can be either simple or slightly difficult. This determines on how frequent a company should test their backup data. And I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Shamil Zikri and my ID is 11811022727. Continue to present about the threat and vulnerabilities and their solution. Okay, for the next point, the implementation of risk assessment control is not independently verified through an audit or external assessment. This have a level of threat of moderate. And the solution for this is, after the implementation of the risk assessment, they should recruit external auditor to verify it. The reason being because the external editor will test for every possibility of failure or vulnerabilities of risk assessment and will not have any bias towards the system because they will gain nothing if they are biased. Next is the completed risk assessment program is not approved by executive management and not verified by third-party auditor. And the solution for this is the completed risk program can be submitted and presented to the executive management so that it will align with the company's priority. This is because the executive management surely knows better about the company's objective and company's priority better than the this assessment program developer. However, if this doesn't work, it can be carried out by the lower management like a branch or unit manager. These vulnerabilities are on the moderate level of threat. And for the next, the information security policies have been completed but not been reviewed by third-party review or audit. This is also contain a moderate level of threat, and the solution for this is the policies can be sent to the third-party auditor to be reviewed after the policies have been completed and approved by the management. The third-party review is actually very important because This entity usually have their set and proven standard where they are reliable enough to carry out the audit to assess whether there is any loophole in the process or not. So they will confirm us if our information security is completed or not, or need some more improvement. It is also important that the policies can be updated in an ad hoc manner if in the case we have any emergency update need to be done. Okay, next. The signed document of the code of ethics by a newly recruited to the company has been maintained and stored. However, it does not be independently verified through an audit or third-party review. And the solution of this is the signed code of ethics can be sent to the third-party reviewer. And the next, for the risk management program, the company has it, but does not address third-party vendors to ensure that they are applying appropriate security measures and the process is audited by an independent party. This actually contains a very high threat level to the company. And the solution for this is every company or organization should have risk management program that aim at third-party vendor. It is because this program actually to ensure that the third-party vendor apply appropriate security measure to company's firm. For instance, the company can set what access do they have to their company's resources and to their company's maybe security resources or whatever important resources. They can limit the third party access to it. And what do they need in order, and the third party can also request what do they need in order to successfully carry out the audit. And that's all from me. Continue for the next presentation.
Hello, my name is Adrian Lim Chi Yuan with ID 11811023029, and this is the Information Assurance and Security presentation that I'm about to do. Okay, for my first question, which is question 2, a low risk question. What level of security do you have for visitors coming into sensitive facilities? FNN replied with, visitors must sign in at the reception desk. One of the risks presented in this level of security is that it does not take account about the fact that the visitors are able to falsify their details with ease. If the visitor is there to conduct a corporate espionage, FNN management and security team will have a hard time to track down the perpetrator. For my solution, I suggest that in order to mitigate this risk, FNN should be stricter with the visitors sign-in system. FNN could implement a system where they record not only the visitor's name, but also their government-issued ID. This in turn will help FNN to track down these visitors with ease and when they report a misconduct that has happened to the police force. Next, question 7, a moderate risk. What level of monitoring is enabled for the fire and or smoke alarm where for the place where the company's data is stored? Their reply was, the fire or smoke detection system is actively monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year by an on-site and or local personnel trained to respond to incidents of fire and or smoke. The risk that is posed in this reply was, although this might seem sufficient for F&M beverages to take fire risks off their list while going through their risk management, it is actually not enough to prevent an actual fire from starting. This is because the personnel may not have enough time to respond to the said system, and there is also a chance that the system might be faulty and not raise the alarm quick enough for the on-site personnel to acknowledge the fire incident. These smoke detectors also take a bit of time to raise an alarm, as smoke detectors do not trigger when there is a minute amount of smoke in the air. This can be proven when there are people smoking in some places which has smoke detector and the smoke detector do not go off. With that said, by the time the smoke detector goes off, the place will have been ravaged by the flames. In my opinion, one of the solutions that may further help mitigate the fire incident is to give on-site and trained personnel a pre-ignition detection system. This pre-ignition detection system will help the personnel by notifying them prior to a fire developing. Since FNN are dealing with carbonated drinks, they most probably have a lot of CO2 gas tanks. So this pre-ignition detection system comes with a gas sensor that can detect gas leakage in the area. When the gas sensor detects any gas, it can notify the emergency personnel as soon as possible and can mitigate the risk before it happens. For the third question, which is question 18, does your organization use a CCTV to monitor access to all sensitive areas where the company's data is stored? If so, where is the video stored after that time and for at minimum the next 90 days? Their reply was, facility does not have a CCTV, but equipment and tapes are not actively monitored. Media is secured for at least 30 days on site. The risk here is workers in the warehouse may steal a company's resources as they know that the CCTV equipment and tapes are not being actively monitored. Some example of resources are those carbonated drinks that are kept in the warehouse or those pallets that are used to carry the drinks. This will cause a minor loss to the company as there are workers who will perform employee sabotages by stealing information and leaking it out to other companies, and the media is only secured for 30 days on site. The CCTV media should at least be secured for 90 days off site as to serve as full evidence when needed. This is also to ensure that the media has not been tampered with when the management team view the CCTV media. It also helps if the CCTV media is audited by an auditor as to prevent any false entry or attempted break-ins to the recordings. Next, question 8, moderate risk. Do you perform backups sufficient to restore your systems? Their reply was, yes, backups are performed on an ad hoc basis. In this reply, I think that if the system goes down in a critical time, F&N's warehouse duties will be halted for a short period of time. Since they perform backups on an ad hoc basis, it is not really ideal as the IT department may fail to perform those backups when they really need it. For example, if they perform an ad hoc backup 4 months ago, those backups will only contain information prior to the time when they perform the backup. This will definitely stall a lot of time as the logistic department employees cannot easily access the real-time information that is being stored in the more sensitive facility. One of the solutions for this risk is to perform backups on a monthly basis rather than on an ad hoc basis, and to implement a hot standby system. This hot standby system is to ensure that when the system really goes down, it can still be able to perform the primary system duties in real time while the technicians try to resolve the problems in the primary system. Last but not least, question 9, moderate risk. Are your system backups encrypted? Their reply was no. As you know, system backups that are not encrypted are very easy to access, and it may pose a very high threat to the company. Cyber criminals would most probably view this thing as an honeypot to steal their files, as it is not locked behind a password. Their traffic can, when their network traffic are intercepted by these hackers, they also can easily modify the contents of the backup and hence ruining the integrity and confidentiality of those backups. One of the solution is to mitigate is to encrypt their backup as soon as possible. Use encryption techniques such as AES or DES or RVA algorithms to encrypt those files, and not only those files but also those system backups to add an extra layer of security to prevent hackers from easily accessing the files. That is all for my presentation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fong, and I will continue to present the risk assessment and solution. And for my part, the first question is, are all network and system devices configured so that the system errors and security events are logged and the log files are protected from alteration by users? And the reply from FNN is, system errors and security events are logged, but the log files are not protected. The level of threat for this question is moderate risk. And the risk is, since the log files are not protected, any user who has access to log files are able to edit the information in the log files. This will cause the loss of confidentiality, and the integrity of the files user can view and modify the file, which are meant to view by a certain group only. So the solution is not only log and protect the log files, but also have all the procedures documented and approved. It also helps if the implementation of this control has been independently verified via an audit or external assessment. And the next question is, how often do you patch your server, workstation, applications, and network device that process, store, and view company's data? And the reply is, major patch are installed within a month of receiving. Minor patch are installed at the convenience of staff. The level of threat for this question is also moderate risk. And the risk is outdated security software may have vulnerabilities that people might not be aware of. This makes it easier for hackers to access confidential data if customer access FNN server. They may accidentally stumble into vulnerability and gain access to other customers' data. The solution is FNN should install the latest patch within 1 to 6 business days after receiving it to avoid any attack that may happen to their system. And the third question is, how often do your organization review access rights, access privilege to system application and networks? And the reply from them is, we review access right privilege at least annually. And the level of threat for this question is low risk. And the risk is a terminated employee gaining remote access to network or email system, segregation of duty issues if an employee moves to a new department but retains system privilege from the previous department and system compromised through the use of vendor password that never expired. So the solution is the FNN should have their formal policy for viewing access right privilege audited by an independent third party. This is to avoid any bias that may be present in the current team and to avoid any overseeing any problem that may be in the policy. And the last question for my part is, does your company conduct a business impact analysis? And the reply from FNN is, business impact analysis is performed on an ad hoc as needed basis. The level of threat for this question is also moderate risk. And the risk is, it is easy to disrupt by accident and emergency. This can include a failure of suppliers, labor dispute, utilities failure, cyber attack, not to mention natural or man-made disaster. And the solution is, rather than doing the business impact analysis on an ad hoc, as needed basis, FNN should be doing it on a monthly basis because they are handling a lot of supplies and a lot of business outlets that sell FNN's product. Doing it a monthly basis allow FNN to always be prepared for any disaster or mishappening that may occur during working hour. And this is my part. Thank you.